Hi, this is Joe, and this is the Film Joe podcast, where film talk happens.
One, two, three, four.
Hi, I'm Joe, and I'm your host, and I'm here with Carlos. Say hi, Carlos,
Hi, everybody. Glad to be back.
and glad to have you back. And welcome to the podcast where we talk about films, filmmakers, trends, and, well, the good, the bad, and the not so bad, all in the spirit and, well, the love of film. So, and in today's episode, we're going to go into sequels that were considered really, really bad. But, I mean, at least I think they were just kind of given a bad rap overall. I mean, at least to me. I mean, heck, I mean, my taste sometimes is called into question. But keep in mind, I'm not saying that these films are great sequels. I'm just saying that they really not as bad as everybody said.
Right.
And so we'll give them a whirl and go into them.
But hey, before anything else, let's first talk about what's on our watch list lately. I mean, what have you seen? What have you been up to?
Ah, okay. Well, actually, I just went to the movies. I don't go to the movies that much, but I went to go see Plane with Gerard Butler, and it was pretty darn good. It was a good old-fashioned actioner, kind of brainless. I mean, not one of those thinking films, but it was really really good. The guy from what's his name? The guy from
Luke Cage.
Luke Cage. What's his name again?
Uh, yes, he has a name. He does have a name.
Here at the Film Joe podcast, we're very well informed on all our films. We do all our research.
To be fair, I have not seen that movie. I do not claim to have seen that movie.
Mike Coulter.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, me,
Yeah.
me too.
Yeah.
I mean, well, IMDb told me, but but it was good. It,
Mhm.
it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoy Gerard Butler's work. I mean, he doesn't do a lot of one of the those.
Like deep, very profound movies. He does like good action movies.
Yeah, he just has fun, and it shows. He enjoys what he's doing. At least I think so. I mean, I don't know the guy personally.
I hope so.
Yeah, but really good. What else did I just recently watch? Oh, a classic, 1985 classic, Fright Night.
Okay,
Have
yeah.
you seen this?
I've only ever seen the remake.
The remake wasn't that bad, but the original just has that campy charm and some really great practical special effects. Um, it was done on a shoestring budget. Say that fast 3 times, and but it was really good. It's one of my favorite classic horror films back in the golden era. I think of horror. We got stuff like Hellraiser and Chucky and all that good stuff. But yeah, that was a nice little rewatch. What else? Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 2.
Nice. Okay.
I'm
Eddie
get
Murphy. Love
Ed
him.
the man. He's making his comeback. Yeah, he
With
hasn't.
the new Beverly Hills coming out, the number 5?
4.
4.
Yeah, and it should be out. They don't have Netflix. Does not have a release date out for it yet, but definitely, hopefully, buy it before the end of summer. And hopefully, they give it a theatrical release. That would be really great.
They'll probably end up doing the same thing as they did with Glass Onion, where it'll be in select theaters for like a week at a time.
Right, right. Give me that 2 week kind of thing.
Yeah.
At least give it 2 weeks because it deserves a big screen release. And but he also has another one with Jonah Hill called You People.
You people.
No, You People.
Ah.
Yeah. um, and it looks pretty funny. Jonah Hill is
I love
always
Jonah Hill.
yeah, he's great. And Eddie Murphy, he's like what? He's like maybe 60, 62.
I don't know, but that man looks great for his age, whatever his age is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like what? Well, whatever my age is, but I'm not there yet. But wow, this guy is amazing. He looks great, and he's still in form. He still has that charisma and that screen energy that he brought to us back in the '80s. I can't wait to watch it. That and Beverly Hills Cop. It's called Beverly Hills Cop Axel Foley.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're bringing back all the originals. So in preparation for that, I got inspired and I watched Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 2. The first one it's a classic. The second one was pretty much, believe it or not, the second one was the team that brought us Top Gun.
Huh.
Same director, same writers, producers, even the score. You know, the Axel Foley theme. You familiar with it?
Kinda. Yeah. More or less.
You know, I swore that the last time I did this singing thing on the air, I wouldn't do it, and I just did it.
Yeah.
So, excuse me. But it's the same guy, Harold Faltermeyer, did the score for Top Gun and for the now iconic Top Gun theme. So yeah, Top Gun. I mean, excuse me. Beverly Hills Cop 2 was more of an energetic film. It had a lot, just explosive. It was so much fun. But if you haven't seen it recently, I definitely recommend it.
I did hear that Beverly Hills Cop was one of the first, like, I guess, representations of like GPS tracking. They had a different name for it, but I heard that that's where the concept of GPS was first like shown or whatever.
Yeah, and there was no such thing. It's a great scene where like they're trying to track one of the cops. He's like, where is he? And they have this big thing on the wall with little lighted up streets and stuff.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, he's on Wilshire and Vermont right now. And yeah, that did not exist. Well, the government already had. Yeah, they
government gets it first, then we get it later down.
Like
Google.
like 30, 40 years later.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was funny how that was thrown in there. But yeah, just a lot of fun. And I can't wait for Beverly Hills Cop Axel Foley. I mean, there's a Beverly Hills Cop 3. Avoid it.
Okay.
It was bad. We're not even going to mention or talk about it. Just
does not exist.
What doesn't?
I don't even know what we're talking about right now.
Okay, let's move on. And you, what's on your watch list?
Well, recently I just finished watching one anime that I started.
Okay.
It was about time travel. It's like one of the better time travel animes out there. It's called Steins Gate.
Oh.
And then I finished watching its predecessor, which came out after the original ended, which is called Steins Gate Zero. And to shorten it down, really, Steins Gate ends with a good ending, right? And then it shows you, oh, they go back in time to fix the one mistake that they made. Kind of like Back to the Future almost.
Okay.
And then that's the good ending. And then Steins Gate Zero explores, okay, well, they did it well here. What happens if it went bad? So Steins Gate Zero is like imagine like quote unquote bad ending and exploring that story. And that one was good as well.
So it would be like an alternate.
Exactly.
Oh,
yeah.
That's cool. I to be honest, I mean, everybody out there, I don't watch anime.
Anime is mostly what I watch.
Yeah.
With movies included.
Mostly anime. I mean, the farthest back I go with anime are the classics.
Akira,
Ninja Scroll.
Squirrel.
Ninja Squirrel. There's somebody out there who's listening who knows who we're talking about. Ninja Squirrel. And then there's what was the other? Oh, Street Fighter 2.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which confused the living bejesus out of me when it first came out because it was just Street Fighter 2. Mm-hmm. There was no Street Fighter 1.
Oh, what?
It was based on the game.
Oh, okay.
Street Fighter 2. And so when it came out, I'm like, oh, this is cool, but now I got to watch part 1. And there was never really a part 1.
Kind of like when Star Wars came out and it was Star Wars, and then Star Wars Episode 5 came out, and they're like, whoa, what happened to 1, 2, and 3?
Right, exactly. Because when it first came out, the scroll didn't have the episode number. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I was a kid, it premiered on television, and it was the new cut with the episode number.
Uh-huh.
That they changed it for television, and I'm all excited, and within like 10 minutes, I'm bummed out because I'm like, oh my God, I missed what? 1, 2,
and 3. What?
Yeah.
When did I miss that?
Exactly. But yeah, no, that's cool. And then what else? That's
about it. Well, we rewatched Puss in Boots again. That was such a fun time. Yeah, such a fun time.
Yeah, that's definitely worth watching more though. It's great. It's great. So okay, sounds great. So let's go on ahead and dive into the episode, into the the films.
All right.
Cool. So So let's talk about sequels. Okay.
Right.
So let's start with a, a classic. Okay, 1995,
Hmm.
Batman Forever.
Okay.
Now this really gets a bad rap from a lot of people. And Michael Keaton, after Batman Returns, decided not to return. Oh, that was good. I just thought of that on the spot. Yeah, he didn't come back, so they brought in Val Kilmer,
Hmm.
new director, Joel Schumacher, who directed such classics as Flatliners, The Lost Boys. A very visually driven director,
Hmm.
very stylistic, and a great director with a lot of street smarts. Really, really solid. And it it had a different feel. It was so. I mean, the first two. I mean, they were campy, but within cool in a cool parameter kind of way. They were,
Right.
but this one was more tongue in cheeky. Um, it was really cartoony. In fact, they even have a line, I don't know if you recall, where Batman and Robin this surface out in the water, and it has they're sinking, and there's holes in this metal platform,
Hmm.
and Robin says, "Holy metal, Batman." Yeah, it was a callback to the whole,
The Adam West saga of
yeah,
Batman.
and it was pretty neat, and it had that. I mean, that whole fun vibe to it, and Val Kilmer. I mean, he may have been a little on the young side to be a Bruce Wayne,
Hmm.
but he's Val Kilmer.
Val Kilmer.
Yeah, I mean, he was great, and also we got the introduction that everybody was wondering, was wanting, was the introduction for of Robin
Right.
with was it Chris O'Donnell,
Hmm.
who was pretty darn good in it. And but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I mean, visually it was just striking. And who was Chase Meridian was the love interest, right? Played by Kim Basinger. No, she was the original. Nicole Kidman. It was somebody.
Some somebody in there.
Somebody in there, and she was pretty good. I enjoyed it.
Hmm.
Uh,
Who was it that had the bat nipples? Was it Clooney or Val Kilmer or George Clooney?
it was Clooney.
Clooney had the bat nipples,
They
right?
had the
Okay,
bat nipples,
yeah,
and that was a whole other fiasco. Now
yeah.
that's
That's a
that one
difference.
falls
Yeah,
into the actual
bad,
bad sequel.
Yeah,
And because George Clooney, he didn't play Batman or Bruce Wayne. He played George Clooney.
George Clooney in a bat suit.
That's what it was. I mean, you watch Michael Keaton, who, in my opinion, he really made the transformation
Hmm.
from he was mostly a comedian at the time and doing fun, kind of funny films, and he actually really became Bruce Wayne. There was a great transformation. Even Val Kilmer, but yeah, Clooney was Clooney.
Yeah,
You watch Ocean's 11 or anything he's ever done. The whole what was the other one he did? Ocean's 11. What else?
Ocean's 11.
Ocean's 11. Wow, we're really prepared tonight, aren't we?
Yeah, of
Um,
course we are.
but yeah, I love Clooney. I think he's very charismatic on film, but when it's Batman, you have to be Batman. You have to be Bruce Wayne, and he didn't pull that off.
Hmm.
But Kilmer brought something different. There's another scene where the love interest, she uses the bat signal to bring. Remember this?
Hmm.
And to meet with him because she just wants to get her groove on or something. I don't know. and he gets there and he goes in a very deadpan, but almost again tongue in cheek. The bat signal. It's not a beeper. And that was the whole film. And I enjoyed. Now Bruce, what was his name? No, the villain was the Riddler,
Uh-huh.
who's Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey, right?
And you think you go, whoa, Jim Carrey, the Riddler, perfect match. He was all right.
Yeah.
I thought he kind of overhammed it up. I mean, in fact, I believe Robin Williams was one of the top contenders to play the Riddler.
I don't. Ah. I think I would have liked to have seen that. I mean, Robin Williams is a very like witty, sort of out there character.
Yeah, he would have really done a lot with it. Maybe it would have been too much because the
Probably.
film was already jam packed with stuff.
Mhm.
It was kind of a busy film. Um, yeah, it would have been. But then again, you think, oh, Robin Williams as Peter Pan grown up, and then there's Hook. That's another fiasco we're not going to go into. So, but Schumacher did such a good job, and I think he did that. They brought him in for he did Batman and Robin, the disaster with George Clooney. Clooney did not return. I mean, I'm sorry, Val Kilmer did not return
Mhm.
because you see what the product on the film is perfect. You know, the working relationship, the director and the actor, they couldn't stand each other. Joe Schumacher did not like Val Kilmer, and in an interview, they asked him about working with Val Kilmer. What was it like? And the director just straightforward. He said, "No, Val Kilmer's an a-hole." Yeah, it was right about then everybody realized he's not coming back for the next.
Yeah.
And of course you bring in the Clooney factor, which we'll just forget about that one. I mean that was Batman and Robin. That was who? Uma Thurman was in that.
I think so.
Schwarzenegger
As Mr. Freeze.
Mr. Freeze.
That was.
Oh my god.
Ah.
Who else? I mean, there was Poison
Didn't
Ivy.
they have Danny DeVito as the Penguin?
That was the second Batman
Okay,
Returns.
okay.
But I know they had like 3 or 4 villains in it, and they were just squeezing it all together. Way too much going on. Yeah, that was a hot mess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's move on to the next that I put together. 2008's Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Now, I know there's a lot of folks out there go, really? That was acceptable? No, it was not a great film, but it wasn't that bad.
Now, see, I'm gonna defend this one only on the. I love Indiana Jones. I absolutely love the original. But here's the thing: The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is one of the first movies I remember going to the theaters and watching.
So it was your first...
I was a young little youngster, and that was one of the first movies. Granted, there's probably dozens more
that you don't remember.
Yeah, exactly. But this is one of the earliest ones that I remember going to watch, and
so it's your first indie film in the theaters.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna stand on this one and say, hey, I liked it. I didn't really, mind it. It's not the best Indiana Jones, not even close. But still, personally, I enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, what I liked about it was, when you're watching it. Now, again, it's not, the top one, of course, is Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Absolutely.
And the next one on that would be The Last Crusade with Sean Connery, which I think is the second, if not, maybe it's very close to the original in just quality. But, what I liked about this is that it felt like an Indiana Jones film. The music, the cinematography, the tone, the
Nazis.
The Nazis. That was a good Brad Pitt.
Yeah, thank you. I practiced.
Yeah, it felt like an Indiana Jones film. However, granted, however, a ridiculous story and plot.
Yeah, the whole thing with the Crystal Skull belonged to an aliens. I was like, okay.
They do belong to aliens, but that's for another podcast. Yeah, I'm a huge alien, ancient aliens fanatic, and I can start my own podcast on that one as well. But yeah, even I found that kind of far fetched and a bit kind of like.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it was good to see.
Okay, believable seeing the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Wow, mysticism, right? Then seeing them do the
chalice.
The chalice. There you go. The cup of the
Grail.
The Holy Grail. The Holy Grail.
Right.
There you go. Now, see, okay, that's understandable. They're part of. I don't want to say lore of the human race, but
theological lore.
There you go.
Or historical lore.
Historical, right? And then seeing alien, and then you see the whole spaceship fly out from the what was it, Aztec, the Inca temple.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you go, oh, the Holy Grail. Yeah, you said
Ark of the
this,
Covenant.
aliens,
Aliens.
UFO. Yeah, that was even I when I watch, I'm like, oh God, no, please.
You really took it there. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. You're sitting there going, did he not? That, oh,
Oh.
he did.
Okay.
He did.
Yep.
And of course, and then this is the much disputed. What's his name? It's Mutt, his son.
Oh. Ah.
Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah.
Shia LaBeouf.
They try to pass on the torch to him with the whole last scene where he picks up the hat,
And it's like not ready.
and
It's
he's
not
like,
yet.
"Nope,
Not yet.
yet."
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I like Shia LaBeouf. I mean, he's gotten kind of weird, in the
Mhm.
years since, but I liked it. I think he did a good job in it. Everybody did a great job.
Yeah.
Seeing Karen Allen back as Marion was really nostalgic, really nice. And yeah, so it was a lot of fun. I definitely enjoyed it. Um, it was very entertaining still. I mean, yeah, some of the stuff on there, like do you remember when they're the big chase with the Jeeps, and Shia LaBeouf is with one, he has one foot in one Jeep,
Yeah.
and that whole,
And there's like the fencing, the
the
whole fencing swords, and there's something like that.
yeah, I mean, I think what Spielberg tried to do, he tried to kind of get away with certain over the top action. If you recall the Temple of Doom, when they're on the mine shaft train,
Yeah.
the cart, and it jumps the rail like a roller coaster, and it flies over the empty space. And I think he was kind of going for stuff like that, a little over the top. But see, in Temple of Doom, as in the other two as well, he would throw in stuff like that, but it's within reason. It was just enough. I think he kind of piled it on a bit too much. The thing with the fire ants,
Yeah.
yeah, and it was really, he kind of it was very uncomfortable to watch. It wasn't, but again, overall, it was not as bad. I mean, I think that you have such an iconic film as like Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones, Temple of Doom, and Last Crusade, that it has big shoes to fill.
Hmm.
And so if you get just a mediocre film, uh, out of, as I say, it's not mediocre because it's up against its predecessor, and it's just it becomes crap. Versus same kind of film on its own, as a
Has
as
a different title and everything.
exactly, it's standing on its own, it would be considered, it was
It
not
was
great.
okay. It was a good
okay.
popcorn
But
movie.
again, it's standing up against its predecessors, and
Yeah.
I think that's why it got such a bad rap, because again, especially the first one was a masterpiece, the second one was good, the third one was fantastic.
Mhm.
So I think that that's one of the reasons why it just kind of got the bad flap it did. It's in my collection. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I like it. I got my 4K, and everything on it. I love it. So let's move on to our next film. This is a good one. Okay, again, this is pretty interesting because the first one, the original, is an iconic classic,
Mhm.
up there with like Gremlins, and it's Poltergeist 2. This was released some years after, a few years after the original. Spielberg had nothing to do with it. He was not the producer. He was not the director. He was not the writer. He had nothing to do with it. And it gets a bad rap. It's this horrible sequel. It's not. It's not too bad. The same thing with Indiana Jones, in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. They bring back that same feel,
Mhm.
and which to me is very impressive. Different directors, different writers, different team, but it still had the same feeling to an extent, because it didn't have the first one was just a beautiful film.
Right.
And it it had its humor and all, and it was, it had some scary stuff in it. It was pretty good. I mean, of course, you have the entire original cast back, and that always helps.
Mhm.
You had Joe Beth Williams, and geez, I forgot the dad's name, but anyway, the whole cast, most of them were back, and it was really nice. And of course, Heather O'Rourke, who passed away after the third one. of I think it was a intestine.
Leukemia?
No, it was some sort of intestinal infection.
Oh,
Yeah, it was pretty sad. And in she was great in the second one. I definitely recommend giving it a shot. Not listening to the. If you watch it, you might hate it. Although I don't think you'd hate it as much as you hated the remake for Poltergeist.
the remake of Poltergeist, which is it had so many issues. We're not gonna talk about
Yeah.
it. It's just
You
absolutely dreadful.
Well,
dreadful.
you were pissed off when you saw it.
Oh yeah, wasted like 2 hours of my life.
Yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, that was bad. But this one, if you get a chance, check it out. It's not a bad film. Again, it has the same feel and wonderment as the original. There's a really cool tequila scene in it where he takes a shot at tequila, the one with the worm. I think it's mezcal.
Oh, mezcal. Yeah.
Yeah, and he takes a shot and he swallows the worm, and it grows inside and pops out of his mouth all full. It's weird.
Oh.
Yeah, it slithers out of his mouth. Great practical effects usage in this. But it's really a good film. I enjoyed it. I was surprised how much, because again, I'm a huge Spielberg fan, as everybody knows, and I thought this was a good follow-up. And again, considering it's not the same directors, you got some guys, have their own style. They kind of adapted Spielberg's style. Now, what's interesting is that I'm sure people note, is that Spielberg did not direct Poltergeist.
Mm-hmm.
It was Tobe Hooper.
He just produced it,
Spielberg
right?
just produced.
Yeah.
Tobe Hooper was known mostly for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like some years, in the mid-'70s. But as Hollywood legend has it, is when Tobe Hooper was working on Poltergeist, Spielberg was there every day or almost every day. And, hey, Tobe.
Wouldn't it be better if we zoomed in on the pan and widened it out?
Yeah, exactly.
I think it would. Personally, I think it would look better. I don't know about you, but
right. And Tobe would go, yeah.
Oh yeah. No, thanks for the advice.
Right. And Spielberg has, I think, within the last couple of years, he addressed that issue, and he said, no, that was Toby's film all the way through. And Tobe Hooper's over there. Yeah, I directed it. He didn't. They have to do that because it was in violation of DGA regulations. He's not the director. In union rules, you can't be directing a film that you're not the director on. He's directing, and so, but you look at it, it's a Spielberg freaking movie.
It really feels like it.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, so I highly recommend it. Poltergeist 2 from '96. The next one we're going to talk about, it's one of my favorites also. This is the third one in the series. It's a movie called Blade Trinity. And Blade being one of my all-time favorite films, vampire films. If you've seen my recent poll on our Facebook group page, I put up a poll, best vampire films, and Blade is on there, and definitely worth it. Blade 2 was great. I think the first one was Guillermo del Toro directed it, and he was fantastic.
I mean, one of my favorite scenes in that entire movie is actually one of the opening shots where they end the rave.
Oh,
the underground rave, and then it all turns into like a blood
rave. Yeah.
Oh man, the first time I saw that, I was having a great time with that.
Oh, I lost it when I first. I mean, I'm in the theater when it first came out. And we're watching it, and that thumping techno kicks in, and people are like, yeah, people were screaming, and it was great.
The music to that is just right up my alley. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And then seeing it, it's just crispy.
Yeah. Well, there is a crispy scene in there.
Yeah.
But great film. The second one was pretty good as well. But the third one brought in a very young Ryan Reynolds before he was Ryan Reynolds. And a super hot Jessica Biel, who was really, really badass. And what I liked about her in this is that, I mean, you watch, I'm all for the female action star,
Hmm.
and I mean, I'm not one of those guys, those knuckle draggers who say, "Oh no, only men can be kick ass and save the day." No, a good. I mean, Sigourney Weaver, Aliens, and Terminator, Linda
Hmm.
Hamilton, and then so forth. But Jessica Biel was really badass. She was great. You believe her, and this goes for both men and women. You go, they're supposed to be a tough person, tough character, and you go, I'm sorry, I don't buy it.
Uh,
Yeah, but she really pulled it off, especially the subway scene with the baby.
yeah.
I mean, wow. Yeah, she walks into the subway. She's like this old woman with a baby and a hood and everything, and she gets attacked by vampires, and she just,
Handles all of them.
oh man, and she has her playlist with techno music,
Yeah.
and that's what I liked also about it. That was very stylistic, using techno music, almost like a music video of butt kicking, of martial arts, and the laser bow thing that she had, which slices vampires in half,
Yeah.
which is really cool. And Ryan Reynolds, when I didn't know who Ryan Reynolds was. I mean, I think I'd seen him before in Waiting.
Mhm.
Have you seen?
I
Oh,
love waiting.
that is such a raunchy,
I saw that
sick.
for the first time only like a couple years ago or 2 years ago. I don't know. But after having worked in the fast food industry for about 4 years, and a lot of the things I've never tampered with anybody's food. Let me just say this,
Quote unquote. Okay.
quote unquote, quote unquote. But I could relate to a bunch of the stuff that was said. Hey, could you handle table five? They're just not really putting me in a bad mood, or something along the
Right,
lines. Of,
right.
absolutely amazing movie.
Yeah, and that's where I had seen him in before. To that point, he'd done quite a few things beforehand,
Hmm.
but I think it was another one he did called Van Wilder, which was I actually saw I think saw like last year, and it was pretty good.
Hmm.
But Waiting was the only thing I knew, and he was kind of like this goofy, charming Chevy Chase, modern Chevy Chase kind of actor,
Yeah.
and he comes on. The guy is ripped
Yeah.
and kicking ass and killing
Gorgeous fucking
vampires.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, he is
Oh,
gorgeous.
he is a gorgeous man.
No, he is amazing. He's and that's what I loved. It was I think what they both added was this sexiness, the two of them.
Hmm.
And we're forgetting the most important element here.
Hmm. The man himself.
Wesley Snipes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and he you could tell even by the third one he was not tiring of the role. You could tell it was a very personal favorite role for him, and he enjoyed doing it. And whenever an actor or an actress they get on film and they're just not there, you can see it.
Yeah, because the charisma and the intent to be there, like ah, um the
No,
umph that they add,
yeah,
it's the umph.
umph.
Sometimes it's lost, and you can tell because the magic just isn't in that sparkle is not in their
Yeah,
eyes.
there's no energy, there's no spark. It's just, and Wesley Snipes, he totally, and to be fair, I love him in all three Blade films,
Hmm.
but he hams it up. He kind of really goes a little bit over the top, but it's still cool.
Hmm.
And I think that's why Blade 3 survives, because it still has the spark, the umph, as you say, of the first two. And Wesley Snipes is still like, yeah, fool, I'm Blade, so what,
Yeah.
And he is, and of course the new blood with Jessica Biel as Blade. What was it, Whistler's daughter,
Hmm.
and and then Ryan Reynolds. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's definitely one of my favorite of the Blade films. In fact, again, to me, it's Blade 1, and then Blade 3, and then Blade 2.
Hmm.
But again, it gets bad rap. It's funny if you think about it. People give it such a bad rap, or some folks just don't like in critics and so forth. It's a vampire film. It's an action cyberpunk or
Techno house
te-
music.
a vampire movie.
Yeah.
This isn't Sense and Sensibility or anything like that. This is a vampire movie based on a comic book character, and I think it definitely it worked.
Yeah.
Um, so now let's move on to the next, and we're gonna go with 1995's Die Hard with a Vengeance,
All right.
which I was kind of shocked and surprised that it was again a lot of critics and user reviews, they consider it lesser or not a good sequel. I mean, come on, you have
Sam
Samuel Jackson.
the
I mean,
man.
yeah. I
Well,
mean,
let me hit you with this. Hey, Zeus. Why you calling me Jesus? Do I look Puerto Rican to you?
I love that. It was the chemistry was great. The action was not stuff, and the pacing and the action is attributed. I mean, the director John McTiernan, he directed the original Die Hard,
Okay.
and they brought him back for the third, and you could tell his style. I at least I'm able to. A lot of fun, high octane, and humor, and let Bruce Willis be Bruce Willis.
Right.
And it was a lot of fun. I really loved the chemistry. When he has him he has Bruce Willis stand in the neighborhood in Harlem with that sign.
Yeah.
Wow. Which he's saved by Jesus.
Jesus. Yeah.
Jesus saved him. But yeah, it's I think it's an underrated sequel. I got to see it at an advance screening in Westwood, California, and I stood in line for like 3.5, 4 hours for it.
I would say that's worth it.
It was. When I saw the original Die Hard and fell in love with it, and it also it ushered in the new type of everyday guy, the everyman's man hero. Before him, you had your Schwarzenegger, John Claude Van Damme, Stallone, who were these muscle-studded heroes with an M60 in one hand and a
machete in the other.
And a machete in the other, and just all, you can look at them, you go, oh, these guys will kill you with their pinky, testosterone, and Bruce Willis was just the everyday guy, and I think that's what works so well in the original. I mean, he was just a regular cop in New York going through a divorce or a separation from his wife, trying to reconcile his marriage and just get through these holidays, and then he's stuck in the middle of this. Also, and that's where and of course, it was pretty much a rehash. As much as I like Die Hard 2, Die Hard 2 is kind of a rehash of Die Hard one. He's there, stuck in one place, and this goes down.
It's in the airport, right?
The-
Die Hard 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
and so
It's good.
it was good. I enjoyed it. But what I really enjoyed about the third one was that it took it out of that element. Wrong, right guy, wrong place, wrong time. And, they did the holdover from Die Hard 1. Remember the greatest, one of the greatest villains in all film, Hans Gruber, from the original. This is his brother who's seeking revenge on, or supposedly seeking revenge on his brother. And of course, instead of a high-rise building or an airport, is the city. The entire city is the backdrop, and the use of riddles and tricks. Riddle me this, and so forth. It was just so much fun. I had a blast with it. It was, to me, it was kind of like a buddy cop film on the road kind of film, but it's on the road through I think it was in New York, right?
Yeah, New York.
Yeah, and the whole city is the backdrop. That's the Nakatomi Tower. That's the airport. Now it's New York City, and they opened it wide up. And
I remember the first time in Die Hard with a Vengeance. There's one scene that they're in like a park or something, and they're supposed to defuse the bomb using mathematics of gallons and quarts.
Water, yeah.
And in my head, I'm trying to figure it out. I'm like, okay, I paused it. I was like, okay, they need a gallon, but they only have X amount of cups to ratios a gallon. And I was like, nah, I would have killed everybody in that park. If it were me, everybody would have been dead.
Yeah, that was a great device. It was all riddles and puzzles, and it gets you involved in that way.
Yeah.
That you hear this riddle and you're trying to figure it out. Okay, this and that. He means it. Yeah. So I liked it. I think it's definitely ranked up there with one of the better sequels in my opinion. But it's not really regarded as such, which is unfortunate. Um, Definitely worth a rewatch. More so, as much as I love Die Hard 2,
Mhm.
I prefer Die Hard with a Vengeance. Definitely.
It had a I don't know. Sam Jackson is one of my favorite actors.
Well, he made that film work, I think. Well, they both did because they both have such a screen presence.
Mhm.
And they both have these really in your face kind of characters, but they're very different. And so if you get Jules from Pulp Fiction and you have him hang out with John McClane, that's what you'd get. They're complete. They're really great screen characters, but they're in the same. So you get this character dynamic that really works. So let's move on. So it's pretty much that's pretty much our list of bad sequels that are not as bad as you thought. Again, it's all
It's all opinions and thoughts.
Yeah.
But I mean, all of them are pretty decent. Not as horrible as some of them are made out to be.
right. And if you don't like any of these films, well, hey, that's your point of view. But me personally, they're not too bad. Now I am going to give you a list. Now this is an actual bad sequels honorable mentions list. Okay, that I'm sorry, I'm not afraid to say these are really bad sequels. We're gonna go with one. You remember Jaws, right?
Yeah, I remember. I love Jaws.
One of the greatest films, shark movie, suspense thrillers,
Yeah.
horror movie. It's a classic.
The one where you don't even see the shark until the last 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, it's amazing. And we'll go into that in another episode why that was. But then Jaws 2 came out and that wasn't too bad. It brought back most of the cast. But then there's from 1983, Jaws 3D. Where do you go from there? That was as bad as it sounds. Is as bad as it is. Now I'm gonna give you a little story, okay? Back in '83, I was my first year of high school, and there was a young lady that I had a crush on,
Okay.
and I was terrible with girls. I was horrible. Okay, it's just no. And so it was a young lady who was part of our group. You have those groups and how you cliques.
Yeah.
And I got the nerve up. To this day, I don't know how I did it, but I asked her out. Okay, and she said yes.
Huzzah.
And I had to repeat the question to make sure she knew what the question was.
Like, are you I just asked you out. We're okay?
Right, and she said no, I'm fine. And she said no, what?
Oh,
And she said, yes, I'll go out with you. I'm like, great. Saturday, I'll pick, around noontime, I'll pick you up. I didn't have a car.
it's a little tough. But
Yeah.
This is the days before Uber or Lyft. So
Right.
it's a little tougher.
It was all public transportation.
All right.
Yeah, smooth. So, not being well, I wasn't really well schooled in smoothness and dating. So I show up with like some ratty tennis shoes, some torn jeans, and a Metallica T-shirt.
Lovely.
Yeah, I thought so.
It's a very grunge sort of look, you know?
Yeah. Before grunge, I was ahead of my time.
Huzzah.
And so I pick her up at her place, and we hop on the bus, and we go to Hollywood. And we get to this one theater out there in Hollywood, and I'm nervous as heck because I don't know what I'm doing. And we get in the theater, and there's nothing so romantic as looking over your date, looking over to her while the movie's showing, and seeing those big, ginormous red and green 3D glasses on her face. Yeah, and so the movie itself, suffice to say, was horrible. So So we left, dropped her off at home, and she never went out with me. In fact, she ended up dating my cousin for like a couple years from that afterwards. But I don't know if that's neither here nor there or connected. But
That's tough, bud.
yeah, that
That's
was tough. Yeah, my cousin would be like, hey,
Hey, your loss is my gain, man.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, the movie was so disjointed and so all over the place. It was just a bad film. 3D was not what 3D is today. And it was just horrible. It was. I mean, to tell you, it was directed by the production director. Production director, kind of like not the director, not the producer, not our director. He's just kind of like
He's down the list.
yeah, Joe Alves. He was the production director of Jaws 1 and 2. So that made him, that qualified him to do Jaws 3D.
For whatever reason.
Yeah, apparently not. So the next honorable mention of really bad films, that bad sequels to our bad, is Speed 2 Cruise Control. Horrible movie. Keanu Reeves did not return for the sequel. If you've seen Speed, the Sandra Bullock, Keanu Reeves, great chemistry, a lot of fun. Keanu Reeves, surprisingly, at that time, was a great action star. He did really well. It was a lot of fun. I think it was that dynamic that worked. So when it came down to the sequel, I don't know what the dynamics were or why he didn't end up doing the sequel, but he didn't. They brought in an actor named Jason Patric, who was the older vampire brother in The Lost Boys. Good actor. The movie was horrible. Basically, a cruise ship they're gonna. I don't even know what it was about, and I've seen it, and I've seen it like twice. I'm a glutton for torture. I said, you know what? Let me watch it again.
Let me rewatch. Let me give it a fair chance this time.
Yeah.
The fifth time around, maybe.
And it was just unfair because I had to watch it again, and it was so bad. In the climax of the film, the ship it's going towards the dock, and it's going to crash into the dock, and it's doing like 5 miles an hour, and you got the suspense music going on, and we're going to crash into the dock, and then you get a shot of the boat. It's like kind of trudging along. Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. So really a bad sequel. The next one we're going to talk about, the next honorable mention, is a movie called Son of the Mask. Yeah.
Jim.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
you don't even have to say anything. We could just hear quiet people listening go, yeah.
That one was bad.
Jamie Kennedy, who's okay. He's not bad, but this was Jim Carrey.
You cannot. If somebody came up to me and said, Carlos, I'm theoretically, I'm a big time actor, comedian, funny as heck, and they come up to me and say, hey, Carlos, we want you to remake a classic that was back in the day with Jim Carrey. Nope, not doing it. Yeah, absolutely not.
I mean, it's not even about can you fill those shoes. You can't even fill his socks.
No.
The first one was just perfect. It was so much fun.
He is a goofy, cartoony character that just, as a person by himself, absolutely great. And portraying, the wearer of the mask of Loki that gives you whatever you want, right?
Right, the trickster kind of.
Yeah. He was born for that role.
He was. I mean, he had prosthetics on his face, but yeah, you've seen him without prosthetics, and he does these crazy faces. He's still like a rubber face.
Yeah.
And then with the prosthetics, which is really great practical effects for the time. So yeah, Son of the Mask, no.
If I can throw one in there, as we were recording this, it came into my head that this movie was just god awful, and it should not have even been called a sequel. Do you remember a couple years ago watching Train to Busan?
Oh, Train to Busan.
Amazing movie.
Yeah.
Hits you in the heart. It's a good zombie movie.
Korean zombie film. Fantastic.
Wow. The first time watching that, I was crying, and I was like on my edge of the seat for suspense. Great. And then hearing like 2-3 years later afterwards, they're doing a sequel. Peninsula.
Oh.
God.
Yeah.
That movie it was a shame to call it a sequel. It
Yeah.
felt like Fast and the Furious meets Zombie Land meets
A video game.
Yeah,
Because
it was,
the action I mean, I understand, okay, fine. I'm not a big fan of CGI, but there's a chase scene with these cars going through this
Empty Korean streets.
and it's all CGI. The entire chase sequence. It's like I'm watching a clipping or one of those. What do you call those in the video games when you got like a little movie?
Oh, cutscenes. Yeah.
Cutscenes. Like a cutscene from Resident Evil. It was horrible. It was bad. Yeah, that
One was as I'm telling you, as we were going through the list of bad sequels, I was like, wait, Train to Busan had a horrible sequel.
Yeah, that one. In fact, the only good thing about that film was that they did not include the name Train to Busan in the sequel.
Yeah.
Train to Busan Peninsula. Then that would have been. That's the best thing they did. Not even associate.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah. And in the final on this dishonorable list is 1982. It's a movie called Grease 2. Now, I know you hate musicals.
I don't watch musicals. I'm sorry.
Grease, I'm not ashamed to say it's one of my all-time favorite musicals. Yeah, you're watching it, right? It's a bunch of high school students.
Tell me more. Did you put up a fight?
I just got goosebumps. Yes, I love that one. I mean, the whole, you're watching from these are high school students,
quote unquote,
right? And they, some of them have 5 o'clock shadows, and they look like they're 30, but it worked for me.
Not just for you, for a lot of people love that movie.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think that you're able to overlook the ridiculousness of the casting. John Travolta, like, oh yeah, 30-year-old high school student,
Makes sense.
And then the angelic Olivia Newton-John. I mean, she was great, but she looked like a woman. She didn't look like a teenager, but it was great. Music, the script. I mean, it was just a fantastic film. And in 82, they came out with a sequel, Grease 2. Now, I know there's people out there who go, I love Grease 2. Good for you. I'm glad somebody likes this movie because I don't want to be mean-spirited, but the movie sucked. It did. Oh, God, the music it makes your skin crawl. Michelle Pfeiffer was in this, and with this other young actor named Maxwell Caulfield or something, or Claudefield, some other guy who never ended up making more movies after that. But
why?
Oh yeah, and what they did, they kind of did a flip, because if for those of you who have seen Grease, you know that John Travolta was the bad boy and Olivia Newton-John was the goody two, and so they did the flip. And Michelle Pfeiffer is related to, or she's the cousin of, or something of Travolta's character from the original. And this other guy is related to Sandy from the original film. He's from Australia, and he's the goody two-shoe. Good Lord, it was just, no. It made my skin crawl. I mean, the musical numbers were just bad. I'm not a musical expert, of musicals, and can say, well, this is very Gershwinian. I don't know, but I know what's good and what's not. In that movie,
you know what just rhymes and what clicks and what doesn't.
Yeah, they tried. That didn't even rhyme. That film. I mean, it was pretty bad, and but what's interesting with most of these films is that you notice, like Grease 2, Son of the Mask, Jaws 3D, they did not bring back any of the originals or the originals that made it work. Speed 2, of course, they brought back Sandra Bullock, but it was the dynamics and the chemistry between her and Keanu Reeves that made that film work. Yeah. I'm thinking about Grease 2, and I know I'm offending a lot of folks out there who may have liked this film, but no, not my thing.
I mean, this episode is purely based on opinions. Everybody's gonna love some movies. Everybody's gonna hate some movies.
And that's the beauty of film. That's why I love film so much, because you got some films, whether good or bad, somebody loves it. Somebody loves this. It's on their special DVD collection shelf. It's deep inside their heart. I mean, and that's the beauty of film. That's why I think it's so awesome that I'm glad even bad films are made. it helps us appreciate the good ones. Well, listen, I think I think we're way over our time here, and we've covered quite a bit.
Yeah.
Listen, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we hope you join us next week for an all new episode. Please help to support and support the pod by giving us a 5-star rating and leave us a nice little review. It helps. Or you can and remember, you can follow us. You can subscribe to us on Amazon, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Deezer, Audible, or wherever you get your podcast fix. Also, don't forget, you can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and on our YouTube channel, where we drop our latest episode a few days after we're out on the podcast platforms. Also, you can directly drop us a line at our email at thefilmjoepod@gmail.com. Also, in our show notes, all our information. So we'd love to hear your feedback. Give us drop us a line. Good, bad, ugly. Just don't threaten our lives, and we're good. Yeah. So I'm Joe.
I'm Carlos.
And this is the Film Joe podcast,
Where film talk happens.